Hello, and welcome to another episode of Currently Speaking, the podcast of the Current Consulting Group. I'm Bill Current, president and founder of the Current Consulting Group, and thank you for joining us. Today, I'm going to talk about reasons why you should update your drug testing policy regularly. And let me start out just by saying that drug testing continues to be an important way that employers address some of their most worrisome priorities. They may not realize that some of these concerns are related to substance abuse, but they typically are in many cases. Now, each year, the Current Consulting Group conducts two major surveys, one of the drug testing industry and the other of employers and their drug testing practices. So our industry survey is in 2026 in its 28th year, and our employer survey is in its 10th year, which we'll do later in the calendar year. In our 2025 employer survey, we asked the question, what are the leading reasons for establishing and maintaining a drug testing program for your company? And here are the results. 78% said to promote workplace safety. That was down slightly from 85% the year before. 61% said to comply with the DOT drug and alcohol testing regulations, which was up from 54% the year before. 44% said they drug test to hire the best possible job candidates. That was down slightly from 51%. 50% said to minimize legal risk. 39% said to comply with other federal requirements. 33% said to comply with state laws. 22% said to reduce overall costs. And 20% said to reduce employee turnover. While employers identify safety as their top reason for conducting drug tests, 85% said they believe it works, that it is helping them maintain safer workplaces. Also, 62% said drug testing enables them to hire better quality employees, and 55% said it helps to improve their company reputation. Overall, 70% said they consider drug testing to be very effective, up from 66% in 2024. Only 1% said they wish their companies did not conduct drug testing, and that was down from 3% the year before. When asked, how does your company measure the success or return on investment of its drug testing program, the results were very telling. Reduction in workplace accidents was cited by 35%. Reduced workers' compensation claims, 26%. Lower employee turnover, 16%. Improved hiring quality, 31%. Productivity improvements, 19%. Reduced absenteeism, 19%. Compliance with regulations, 43%. Cost savings overall, 10%. And 46% marked, we don't formally measure return on investment. Well, why you should update your drug testing policy regularly depends a lot on why you do drug testing and whether you want to accomplish those objectives. So let me go through 10 reasons why every employer should update their drug testing program regularly. And if you're a drug testing provider, this is advice that you can be giving to your customers as to why they should keep their policy up to date. Number one, increasing drug abuse. Some reports claim that substance abuse levels are down, but the reality is marijuana and fentanyl use are fueling increases in some sectors of society, and both drugs pose a threat to the safety and wellness of workers. Number two, new drugs of abuse. We hear a lot about marijuana and fentanyl, and rightly so, but there are some very scary emerging drug trends out there right now, including designer drugs and new psychoactive substances that are becoming more popular and definitely worth monitoring. I would advise you to check out the National Drug Early Warning System online to stay on top of new drug use developments. Number three, drug use on the way to work. Some reports show that a disturbing percentage of drug users, especially marijuana users, admit to getting high during their commute to work. That means they're starting their shifts under the influence, which of course is never a good thing, particularly in safety-sensitive situations. Number four, drug use while on the job. There are also reports that indicate individuals are getting high while on the job. That's not good news under any circumstances, but especially if you employ people who drive company vehicles, for example, or who work remotely. Number five, post-accident positivity trends. More drug use before and during work shifts means more drug-related workplace accidents. This trend is manifested in the increase in post-accident positive test results. For more information on this trend, check out the latest drug testing index from Quest Diagnostics. Number 6, changing state laws. Every year there are nearly 600 bills considered at the state level that, if enacted, would have a direct impact on workplace drug testing. And every year, many of those bills actually get passed and enacted, in addition to changes being made to existing laws. All of these changes necessitate policy updates for employers with operations in those states. At the Current Consulting Group, we track state legislation and federal regulations every week. That's why in April of 2026, we were able to alert our clients that Oklahoma and Maine both made legislative changes that have a direct effect on workplace drug testing in those states. Number 7, marijuana legalization. Most states have already legalized marijuana for either medical or recreational use, or both. What we are seeing a lot of are proposed amendments to these existing laws that increase protections for marijuana using employees and job applicants and place restrictions on what employers can do when someone tests positive for marijuana. Number 8, new testing methods. At the top of the list of new and emerging testing methods is oral fluid drug testing, but there are others in the works. Before you can implement a different testing methodology or add a different testing methodology to your program, you must update your drug testing policy to ensure complete compliance with all applicable state laws. DOT and oral fluid drug testing. As many of you know, in May of 2023, DOT, the Department of Transportation, issued its final rule for lab-based oral fluid testing. The federal government predicted in 2019, prior to all of this, that as much as 30% of DOT-regulated employers would either switch to or add oral fluid testing, which will require a complete overhaul of those companies' policies. And I believe 30% is a low estimation nowadays. Those new regs are almost ready for full implementation. Stay tuned on that. But if you plan to add oral fluid testing to your DOT program in the future, you must update your policy. And number 10, changing company priorities. Why a company conducts drug testing determines how it will test, who is subject to testing, and when testing will occur. As company priorities shift, drug testing policies usually need to be updated. And I'll add an 11th reason. Your company is growing and you're now located in additional states since you last updated your policy. At the Current Consulting Group, we literally write hundreds of drug testing policies for companies of all sizes from virtually every industry. And the most common question we get asked is, we're in multiple states, which one do we have to comply with when it comes to our company's drug testing policy? And the answer is all of them. So as you expand into new states, your policy will require updating. In our 2025 survey of employers, we asked, when was the last time you updated your drug testing policy? 42% indicated it had been more than a year, with another 6% saying they've never updated their policy. In our 2024 survey of employers, when we asked what are the biggest challenges to performing drug tests, nearly 30% said it was keeping their policy up to date. In the same way, an up-to-date drug testing policy that actually and accurately reflects all applicable state laws and our federal regulations is the key to a successful drug-free workplace program. An out-of-date policy, one that does not reflect current legal requirements, is an invitation to trouble in the form of an ineffective program and possible legal challenges from disgruntled employees and job applicants. At a minimum, a drug testing policy should be updated annually. In reality, with the fast-changing legal landscape prompted by state marijuana laws, which often can have a direct impact on drug-free workplace programs, a company's drug testing policy should be examined quarterly and updated in real time as laws change and new laws are enacted. Now, I'm going to talk about this movement toward one-size-fits-all drug testing policy templates, which I don't like at all. And to help me do that, I'm going to read an excerpt from an article I wrote for The Voice. That's the e-magazine of the National Drug and Alcohol Screening Association, NDASA. And the article was on why drug testing providers should offer policy review and development services. But what I'm about to read is applicable to employers as well who may be listening. So here's what I wrote in that article, quote, "Yet, despite its importance, a drug testing policy is sometimes treated as an afterthought by both employers and drug testing providers. But providers do a great disservice to their clients by not emphasizing the critical importance of a well-thought-out policy that reflects a client's drug testing objectives and covers all applicable state laws and federal regulations. Too many providers simply give their clients a one-size-fits-all model policy or policy template that makes no mention of applicable state laws and requires little more than inserting the company's name and address at the top, end quote. Here's the problem with a one-size-fits-all model policy. It's not worth the paper it's printed on, or the computer screen it shows up on via an email. Here's why. 1, it will be out of date within a few months, if it doesn't already start out that way. 2, employers are likely to show little to no attention to it because it was probably free. 3, employers are likely to show little or no attention to it because it's not customized to the specific circumstances of that company. 4, it doesn't take into consideration applicable state laws and regulations. 5, if it's a DOT policy, it may not be specific to the right DOT agency or reflect the latest changes to Part 40. 6, it probably doesn't cover state workers' compensation regulations that often contain specific drug testing requirements for employers who wish to take advantage of local laws that allow them to move to deny benefits when someone tests positive following an accident. And 7, they provide employers with little to no legal defensibility when someone uses respondeat superior or negligent hiring laws to hold employers accountable for their employees' reckless and bad behavior while under the influence of marijuana and other drugs. But for providers, the number one reason why one-size-fits-all model policies don't work is because they don't reflect well on you, the provider. When such policies fall apart under close scrutiny, the employer is likely to lose faith in the provider, which means a damaged business relationship and probably a lost client. So let's take a minute now to talk about what should be in the policy. What should a comprehensive policy include? So I'll start out with drug testing objectives. The most common reason a company conducts drug testing, as we learned from our annual survey of employers, is safety. The safety of employees, clients, and the public, while simultaneously protecting the company's property, equipment, operations, and profitability. Also, employers should consider if there is interest in establishing a program that meets the requirements to disqualify individuals from receiving benefits for workers and unemployment compensation, which many states permit when substance abuse is involved. Additionally, a handful of states offer discounts on workers' compensation premiums to employers who follow specific drug testing guidelines. All this needs to be spelled out and included in the policy. Which state laws apply? Employers should be aware of all applicable state and federal laws and how they affect the how, when, and who of drug testing. Employers who understand the different requirements and build them into their policy benefit greatly both legally and economically by having a compliant testing policy. As state laws change, which happens frequently from year to year, companies need to be aware of these changes to determine if and how they impact their operations. A policy should be updated anytime an applicable law changes so as not to be caught off guard and possibly become subject to a potentially costly legal challenge. Who's covered under the policy? Who is subject to drug testing should be based on the types of jobs you offer and the objectives of your policy. Employers may elect to include all employees in their program or limit testing to job applicants or employees with certain job functions, such as safety-sensitive positions. Also, employers should consider if remote, temporary, contracted, or seasonal employees will be subject to the testing program, and then check with applicable state laws to make sure it's okay to test those individuals. This should be clearly explained in the policy, however, to eliminate any question as to who must follow the testing rules. What conduct is prohibited? Well, it may be obvious that all illegal drug use on company time should be prohibited. What the policy says concerning off-duty use, criminal drug convictions, and being at work under the influence or impaired should be considered. What about the misuse of prescription and over-the-counter medications? The prohibitions will provide clear direction for employees on what is and is not acceptable behavior. And then finally, how will drug and alcohol testing be conducted? Explaining the testing procedures your company uses includes what specimens will be tested, where collections will take place and be performed, and where specimens will be analyzed, among other things. When such procedures are followed consistently, the legal defensibility of your company's program is strengthened and the rights and privacy of donors are protected. And it should be noted that many state drug testing laws require a written drug testing policy that includes this specific information that I've just mentioned. So in conclusion, years ago, the government did a study on what makes an effective drug testing program. I can't find that study today to reference the exact location of where you can read about it. But if you'll trust my memory just this one time, the conclusion of the study was that a comprehensive program that includes a written policy, supervisor training, and an employee assistance program will more likely produce the desired results from drug testing than a program that relies only on drug testing. An up-to-date policy that reflects all applicable state laws and federal regulations makes a drug testing program better. It's the difference between being able to say you conduct drug testing and being able to say you maintain a safe and productive workplace that is virtually free of drug abuse issues. And that's why we conduct drug testing, right? And why a company's drug testing policy must be kept up to date regularly, if not frequently. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of Currently Speaking. I would refer you to our website at currentconsultinggroup.com, where you can find past episodes of Currently Speaking, as well as links to webinars that we've done and blog posts that we've published. And as well, check out my new book, What Every Employer Should Know About Marijuana, at Amazon.com. I think you'll really enjoy it. There's great information in there. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us. We'll be happy to help you. Thanks again. We'll catch you next time on Currently Speaking.